Welcome to Wealth Made Simple with Shaz, where you'll learn how to master your money through business, property, and tax-saving strategies. Your host has collectively helped his clients make tens of millions of pounds in additional profits through these strategic approaches to business. Introducing Shaz Nawaz, an award-winning chartered accountant, property tax expert, entrepreneur, and property investor.
You were going to continue with the traits that money likes, because obviously all about property, and property likes money and property takes money.
Absolutely. So we talked about this not too long ago, and I shared a few traits, and I think it's important for our listeners and viewers to understand that although money doesn't have a consciousness per se, and it doesn't talk, it doesn't walk per se, there's no physical being to it.
But it does flow.
It does flow, and it flows in a particular direction for a particular reason, which is very different to how humans and people behave. It behaves in a very different way, and money is consistent in the way that it behaves and in the way that it flows and moves. And once we can understand those reasons and adopt and adapt to them, there's a higher likelihood and a bigger chance that we'll be able to attract more money into our lives. And it's important, Kiran, that I focus on the word attract. So chasing after money doesn't work. Being desperate to get more money doesn't work. But creating an ecosystem around you, let's say a bit like a magnet, which attracts money through the positive traits that we're sharing on this particular episode, is going to help people get more money in their lives. And money isn't just about being centered and focused solely on money, because as we've talked about on different episodes and shows, that money is a consequence of doing the right things at the right time, in the right way, for the right reasons.
Success leaves clues.
With the right people, exactly. So I think sometimes some people at least anyway, tend to misunderstand that somebody who's done well in life, that they are fully money focused or money orientated. And I think nothing can be further from the truth, because as you get to know those people, you'll see that they are more purpose driven. They have a particular vision, and because they're doing things in a particular manner, they tend to attract more success and more money in their lives. So this particular episode isn't about making everybody focus on just money itself. Money is a consequence of doing the right things. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, because I think you find, I think it was, I want to say Bill Gates, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on this. But he said that he focuses his efforts on making the world a better place, making changes happen, influencing those changes and things like that. And although he's built his entire empire and he has a vast amount of wealth, he doesn't consider money to be part of who he is or his understand. He obviously understands business and money and that side of things, but money doesn't affect him, and he doesn't think about it. If he goes out and he wants to do good, he does good. He goes out and he sets up his foundations and stuff like that. And yes, in the background, all of these things take money, but all that money that he puts towards that is a result of the predictable, repeatable success stratagems that he has followed over the course of his career.
And that's interesting, because money, or the pursuit of money itself, can become a very oblique goal. Because if you think about it, let's say somebody who's earning £30,000, wants to have more money in their lives because they want a slightly better car, or somewhat better car, somewhat better house, can afford to go on a holiday or a couple of holidays a year, and works out that basically they need £80,000 a year, and some possibly. And if they make money the only goal, maybe when they get to 50,000 or 60,000, they think, I'm kind of getting bored with this. I've got most of what I wanted, and this isn't exciting. It's not energetic.
It's not fulfilling.
It's not fulfilling. It's not in line with their personal flow. So you get bored. You get tired. And some people again might find that difficult to comprehend right now because they might not be in that particular situation. But as you know, I've come across a lot of people in the last 21 years of being in business who perhaps started off by saying, okay, having a bit more money or quite a bit more money is what they want. And as they've developed their mindset and as they've grown as an individual, they've realized a particular pattern correlation, Kieran, that they tend to do well when they focus on outcomes, when they focus on solutions, as opposed to being primarily focused on making more money. So people soon change that particular mindset and then have a particular purpose. And the word purpose and the word passion, as you know, are overused and sometimes possibly misused. So I don't want to use those cliche terms, but having a reason why you do what you do when you get up every morning is more likely to keep you going than just the pursuit of money in itself.
Yeah, it's the pursuit of happiness, not the pursuit of money. Money can't buy happiness. You could have all the money in the world and still be miserable. It does make, I mean, there is the old cliche of I'd rather cry in my Ferrari than, in any other car. But the sentiment is still, if you're not fulfilling your life, your dream, your goals, and you are pursuing something other than what is in line with you, and your mindset will change as you grow, and as you might start off dedicated to the goal of money, but as you grow, you'll again, success leaves clues. As you develop, as you grow, your mindset grows. As your mindset grows, you start looking at things differently. As you look at things differently, you start changing your progress. You start changing your focus, your prioritization, and your prioritization starts to be more in line with who you are as a human being, what you want to achieve, what your goals are, what
absolutely, but
focus is.
Yeah, absolutely. But money can buy you lots of things that make you happy temporarily, or sometimes medium term, possibly sometimes long term. So whether it's that red Ferrari moment that you were talking about earlier, or it's something else that people want, money can help you achieve those things. But I guess big takeaway for this particular episode is money is a fantastic slave and a really horrible master. So don't ever make it your master. Use it what it was created for, which is a means of exchange.
It's a tool. Okay?
Yeah, don't get into this particular position where you end up being somebody who worships money and thinks everything evolves and revolves around money, because it doesn't.
Absolutely.
So some of the most unhappiest people in the world, Kieran, are those who have a lot of money.
This is true. And I think another thing worth mentioning whilst we're on, happy, unhappy people with money, people without money, is there is a large portion of lottery winners that end up being broke again because they didn't have the right mindset to keep hold of the money they won. It was there for a fleeting instance and then it went because they weren't in flow with the traits money likes.
You just spoiled one of my traits, Kieran.
I'm so sorry.
You've done it again, haven't you?
It's almost like I read the script beforehand.
Somehow you're in tune with what I'm about to say, aren't you?
Maybe.
I've got to spend less time with you. That's what I've got to do. Spend less time with Kieran.
Spend less.
For the day.
Educate Kieran less.
On that note, should we cover off some more of the traits that money likes?
Absolutely. I'll after you, my friend.
Okay. So a trait that I think we can all use more of and adopt more of is having a positive attitude. And here I'm not talking about hugging trees, and I'm not talking about being woo-woo and just being warm, fluffy, and fuzzy, by the way. Okay, but as you've heard me say before, Kieran, it's easy to be negative. That's why we have so many negative people in the world. Okay, it's easy to moan and groan about how everything's unfair and things aren't working too well, and
Well,
how
I
the world's
like
against
moaning,
you.
Shaz.
We're gonna have to change that, Kieran, and I'm gonna have to inject some positive attitude in you, because money gravitates towards people who have a positive attitude towards wealth, financial abundance, okay, and many other things that come with it. So having a positive can-do attitude about life is more attractive to money than being negative, because a negative attitude repels money. A positive attitude helps you to attract money.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And when we're positive, and I'm sure if you'd cast your mind back to some of the times you've been negative, you probably haven't performed at your best when you've been positive about something and things don't quite work out. Because I'm not saying when you're positive everything's going to fall into place, and the world's going to be a better place. But because you're in a positive place, you'll see things differently. And when you come across hurdles, blockages, challenges, you'll think, okay, how do we now find a route around this? Okay, and try and get to where we want to get to, as opposed to saying, damn, this hasn't quite worked. I knew it wasn't going to work. I knew it was a bad idea. The people around me aren't good. This isn't working. That isn't working. Blame the economy. Blame the government.
Blame anyone but myself.
The banks, exactly. Okay, so you've just got to have that positive attitude that this is a test, this is a gift. What can I learn from it, and how can I move forward and work towards achieving my goal? Because as you know, okay, most people are a 20, 30, 40-year overnight success and not a 5-minute overnight success.
Yeah, I mean, flash in a pan overnight success. I don't think, aside from, a buy one ticket, win one lottery winners, I don't think anyone is in the history of the world is an overnight success. Everything is always.
And let's make no mistake about it. Okay, whatever people's personal thoughts about this are, if most people were given a huge amount of money, irrespective of where it comes from, for those who are okay with obviously playing the lottery, will do that. For those who it's against their personal principles and beliefs and ethos or ethics, if they receive an inheritance, okay, 7, 8, 9, 10 figure sum, I'm sure most will accept it gladly. But the problem is this: when you strive and work towards something and it takes you days, weeks, months, years, decades, it's not the money that gets you to where you want to get to. It's the attitude and the things that you learn on the way,
the education,
the journey that helps you to maintain that particular persona and helps you maintain your wealth and preserve your wealth. Now, giving somebody who isn't good with money, giving them £1 million isn't going to make them any better with money. In fact, they're going to carry on doing what they've been doing since day dot. And they'll, as you've said, they'll probably blow that money in a very short period of time. And you give the same amount to somebody who's, let's say, got 10, 15, 20 years of experience of managing money, managing finances, managing people, managing businesses, okay, managing a family, for example, because not everybody has a business, but being responsible for something. Give them £1 million and they'll behave very differently because they've learned certain tricks, traits, characteristics, behaviors that will put them in a better place to manage that money.
Absolutely. And I think there's also a degree of, should have taken a note because my mind's just gone blank. No, you give someone money, they're always going to make the same mistakes they've always made. And I think that's very telling when, because I'm sure, everyone has this conversation in their friendship groups at some point or another. If I was given £1 million, what would you do with it? And the first things, people are always like, clear clear debt if I have any debt, you know, buy a house, buy a car, buy this, buy that, buy the other. And you notice with the majority of people, it's always I would buy. There's a much smaller group of people where when you say to them and you have that conversation, you know, and you and I have had that conversation, you know, if someone were to give us, you know, £1 million, what would you do with it? The first words aren't buy, they're invest.
Absolutely, because I think the majority of people get the fact that money makes money. And if you're smart about it, you say, okay, how do I invest this? Let's call it capital, for want of a better expression. How do I invest this capital so I preserve this and then do two things with it? One is create some form of a return that will help me sustain and improve my lifestyle. And the second thing is, how do I now increase the capital so the value of this increases over time? Because if it doesn't, then it's going to obviously, let's use the word depreciation, okay? Because money will be worth £1 today is worth less than £1, say 20 years ago.
Yes.
So they want that pound or that £1 million to appreciate in value, and as it appreciates in value, then your return becomes bigger as well. Because say 10% of £1 million, okay, is less than 10% of 1.5 million. So you increase that capital, and in return, your return on investment grows in proportion.
But that all comes down to mindset. If you are of the mindset that if someone gave you £1 million, you would go and buy your boat, buy your car, buy your house, buy your family a house, buy your brother a house, buy your sister a house, and then at the end of it, you've spent £1 million. And buying houses, it's very easy to spend £1 million.
Absolutely. I think most people, Kieran, haven't had that financial education or the exposure, or haven't been in that environment to understand that investing in a particular way, okay, earns you a particular return. Because if you speak to most people, and it's not their fault, by the way, they don't know where to invest, where to start, how to do it. Do they buy a property? Do they loan somebody some money and charge interest, for example, if that's in line with their personal beliefs? Do they buy stocks and shares? Do they invest in art? Do they buy classic cars? And there's so many. Do they put their money in crypto? Do they buy gold or silver? Okay, there's so many other options alongside these. Do they invest in a business? Do they become an angel investor? Do they start a new business? People don't know they have all these options, and when they do have the options, they don't know which one to pursue because they've never had the training to be able to do that. And that leads me to the second trait that I want to share today, which is having the confidence. Because money likes people who have the confidence and the ability to both create and manage wealth and manage their finances, but to also have the confidence and a particular aura about them to feel successful. Because confidence, Kieran, is a small village that sits just south of a city called arrogance.
Yes.
So we should never be arrogant, but we should just sit below arrogance, okay? Enough below it so we're nowhere near it, but we're very confident under our own skin about our own ability in terms of investing money, making money, understanding finances, understanding wealth, understanding how to preserve wealth, understanding how to create intergenerational wealth. So all of those things are important.
But how do we know that? How do we know in ourselves the difference between being arrogant and being confident? Because for some people mistake confidence for arrogance, and some people mistake arrogance for confidence. How can we be sure that we're not moving our homestead further north into that city?
I think if you asked most people, can you think of the last time that you were being inappropriate in terms of your behavior where you felt you let yourself down, I think most people will be able to share an example, if not more than one example. So the difference between confidence and arrogance, in my view, is this: arrogance is where you think you know it all, where you think nobody should challenge you, where you think whatever you say, okay, goes, and people should listen to you for whatever reason. Confidence is having the ability to share your ideas, your thoughts, your vision, but at the same time having the ability to incorporate, listen to other people's feedback and say, I've got something to learn as well, but at the same time, I can share something with you where you can learn too. So it's having it's difference between being on a one-way street and a two-way street. And
It's the
confidence is
ability
a
to
two-way
listen.
street. Yeah, absolutely. Confidence is a two-way street. Arrogance is a one-way street where you're saying, I'm on the highway and I'm going at my own speed. I don't care whether I hurt you, upset you, disappoint you, or leave you in tears. I know what I'm talking about, and this is how it's going to work.
Yeah. No, I can see that. I can see that. I think I was told something many years ago, and I do think it's true. And it's confidence is the key to everything, and confidence is the key to everything.
Yep.
Now,
Absolutely.
most people don't understand the difference between the two phrases, but there is a difference, and I think that is very, very important. That you can be confident without being arrogant, and you can be comfortable with yourself. Be comfortable enough to listen and not take offense just because someone disagrees with you. Be able to know your own mind and know your own choices, and when challenged, be able to hold to that challenge and justify why you believe what you believe or say what you say, with the ability to listen back and go, that's a valid point, I will take that on board and incorporate that. Or that's not, I disagree with that because X, Y, and Z. Have you thought about it this way?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what's next on our list then?
The next one, which I think is very, very important, and we've kind of touched on it without touching on it, is responsibility. So money likes people who take responsibility for their finances, for the way that they manage their finances, for the way that they look after their money, okay, for the way that they take responsibility for their decisions. And remember, the word responsibility, Kieran, is the ability to be able to respond in any particular given situation. So you look in the mirror and you take responsibility for everything that's happened, whether you think it's your fault or not. It's partly you're doing because you're in a particular situation, because you took a particular step or action, and then you weren't able to, change direction because you either didn't see something coming or you didn't take the time to review and assess the situation. So you take responsibility for everything that goes right or wrong in your life. But when it goes right, you give the people around you credit for the support they gave you. When it goes wrong, you look in the mirror and think, what could I have done differently or better?
And whenever I have that conversation with myself, I always go, yeah, there was a lot I could have done different. I learned a lot from that situation.
Yeah, I mean, a really good example, and you and I've talked about this before, is, there's a documentary on Netflix, which I strongly recommend everybody to watch. Well, in fact, there's more than one documentary, as you know, but one which is linked to this, which is about Bernie Madoff.
Yeah? Yes, and the Bernie Madoff.
Yeah, and then people that are ending up in tears, and they're crying, and they're upset, and they've lost their inheritance, and they've lost all their savings. And truly, Kieran, I feel sorry for those people. But then I also think, how naive were you to actually buy in to something which was too good to be true? Did you not for a moment look around you and say, okay, this person is offering X return, whereas everybody else is offering a Y return, and the Y return in a direct
is
competition,
much,
correlation, and
much
comparison
lower.
is inferior. And I'm sure, of course, there are certain things that are outside your control, which we don't need to go into today. But for the majority of things, we can take control. And it was, I believe, Earl Nightingale who said, "We're all self-made, but it's only the rich who admit it."
Yes.
And I just thought, when I first heard that, I thought, you know what? How true is that? Especially, obviously, thinking about, reflecting on the traits that I've shared so far on money in this episode and on a previous episode. Okay, it all comes down to personal responsibility for everything that's in your control that you can control, and then the things that you can't control, which I was linking to, obviously Bernie Madoff earlier on, which is, if something's too good to be true, then it is too good to be true, and we should always take things with a pinch of salt. And you and I talked a lot about this in terms of the positive benefits of negative planning. So thinking about everything that could possibly go wrong, okay, and then having a plan B, C, and D for it, okay, so that if that thing were ever to happen, at least you've thought about it and you're mentally prepared, if nothing else. But in terms of negative thinking, what we weren't saying is to have a negative attitude. What we were saying is to plan for the worst.
Yeah. And I mean, in planning for the worst, one of my favorite phrases is, well, okay, plan A didn't work, plan B didn't work, plan C didn't work. I mean, I'm just very, very grateful that the alphabet has 26 letters.
You've got plenty of opportunities, 26 of them at least. Yeah.
At the very minimum, and then after that, then I'm gonna switch to the Greek alphabet and add omega on there, and then we're gonna switch to the Chinese alphabet, and then the Japanese alphabet, and then the characters, and then.
No, you're not, Kieran. Then you're gonna after you get to H or somewhere, and you think, you know what? Let me look in the mirror. Maybe there's something wrong with me, or maybe I'm doing something wrong. So maybe that's when personal responsibility kicks in. Maybe
I shouldn't be planning so far ahead. Maybe I should look in the mirror first.
Yeah, because if you get to Z, Kieran, and that the penny doesn't drop and it doesn't dawn on you, then I'll feel personally responsible that I haven't done enough to support and assist you, by the way. So don't ever put me in that situation, will you?
I promise not to put you in that situation.
Yeah, just don't get to Z.
We won't get to Z.
Get to Y, but
I'll
don't
get to Y. We'll stop at Y.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Wealth Made Simple. You can follow and contact Shaz on the Facebook pages Entrust Property Tax and The Profits Wizard. You can also find Shaz on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. Alternatively, email him at shaz@aa-accountants.co.uk. Build your wealth by mastering money.